Okay, I was flicking through local auction sites, and Abby's Auctions is one that's based in Burwood, Melbourne, Australia. And it brought up something of interest to many, and that is this one right here, wood planes. This is an auction that's based on the collection of one individual, and it's quite a few items that are in this collection and a couple that I want to go through. But the question it raises is, what have you organised for your collection at the time comes that you're no longer able to engage with it, or you pass on and leave it to someone else to deal with? Are there clear instructions? Is someone that's going to value it going to get it? Are you looking for someone else to gain financial value out of it? These are the sorts of questions we should be asking ourselves now as collectors. My collection, I've had ideas of handing over to a museum or to some sort of cause that will help aspiring woodworkers. Haven't decided yet, and there is quite a bit of value there. If I was to pass before my wife, I'd want my wife to be able to decide whether she wanted to sell it or whether she would decide to donate it to a cause, like my original thoughts. But I don't want to leave my wife in a financial position that is difficult for her. So if she can gain some financial benefit out of it and then allow others to purchase the individual items, that might be something that's worthwhile and helps keep these tools in not only good condition, but being utilised and looked after and hopefully protected for future generations to be able to appreciate. It's a question I think we all need to ask ourselves. But in this particular auction, there is a number of items that are of interest to many. And you'll see right at the top, lot number 1 is a Stanley number 1 smoothing plane. It's already bid up pre-auction to $1,200, and the auction is in a couple of days' time. Today being Thursday the 9th of March, the auction is on Saturday on the 11th of March. You can bid right away now. So those that can either pick up or organise courier pickup from Burwood in Melbourne that are keen on advancing their planes should look at Abby's Auctions right now. But what is of huge interest to me out of this particular option is keeping in mind this is one person's collection. They don't have one Stanley number 1. They had 5 Stanley number 1s. And at the moment, they range in price on the auction from $1,200 down to $400. Now the $400 is missing the tote at the back. So you could understand a bit of a price drop on that to get a number 1 tote and also the bolt that holds it in place. Involves an additional cost. But does it mean the plane is only worth $400? Obviously, as the auction goes through and the other items get sold, they will get bid up. It'll be interesting to see how much it gets bid up to. Another one of interest is lot number 53. Once again listed as a Stanley number 1. And it's looking to be in quite good condition. Well worth looking at and bidding on. But there is an interesting point. It's corrugated. Stanley never released a corrugated number 1. I can't remember the name of the company that did it, but there was another company that did release a corrugated base for a number 1, and they put in Stanley kit onto it, or someone else did. So it's not really a Stanley number 1. It's a fake in a way, or it's a Frankenstein between multiple brands. It's not really a fake because it is Stanley gear otherwise, or at least the lever cap and the blade is. And chances are the frog, etc., are as well. And it's just the base that's from another company. Now, here's an additional question for you. To make it worthwhile to collect and to make it rare and therefore desirable, does it really need to be a Stanley? Does it need to be all Stanley? Does something like this start to gain value in its own right? Because although it was at the time of manufacture faking a Stanley number one to some extent, or trying to enhance a Stanley number one with a corrugated base. Now, whether that's an enhancement or not is, I'll leave up to you to judge. Personally, I don't think so. Feel free to fight me in the comments. The idea in my mind of corrugation was to lighten a plane and reduce the amount of surface area of the plane that touches the timber, reducing the friction when you push through. On a Stanley number 8 and a number 7, that makes some sort of sense, although some have tested that it doesn't really make any real difference in reality. But on a number 1, it's such a small, light plane. Is it going to make any difference at all to anything? I would suggest not. But a company determined it was worthwhile making it. And now this one is actually already at $650. So whether it's people that think it's a Stanley, or whether it's people that think it's desirable because you don't see a corrugated number 1 size plane, and even though it's corrugated and it's not Stanley, it's still a solid, usable and quite unique plane. Therefore, collectible, you would think. One person having that many Stanley number 1s though is also rather unique. Obviously saw there was value in collecting them. That's not a sort of collection that you would look at putting in a museum, because the museum really only wants one example. This is obviously a collection for value. And if this person has now passed away, I don't know. I don't know if they're still alive and just decided to sell their collection. But whatever it is, they're obviously looking for return. And they're doing it as one hit. If we look at 45, once again, they don't have 1 or 2 45s. They have quite a number of 45s. In fact, there's 14 of them. Now, a lot of these come with their boxes and blades, etc., to the point that they're almost, if not a full kit, or easily converted into a full kit with a few purchases. But they all come with boxes. Now, some of those are original boxes, and some of them are handmade boxes. But this is obviously a collection of 45s that has been acquired to improve the value of their investment. 55s, once again, quite a number of 55s. For some reason the pictures don't want to load on those, but there is a lot there. 62s, low angle jack plane. Got quite a bit of interest with Stanley releasing a couple of years back a new number 62 with a Sweetheart logo on it in recognition of the desirability of that plane. And a lot of people picked it up and spruiked it, especially across the YouTube community. 62s in the original format were very hard to find. Well, here's 4 of them. And the prices at the moment are much lower than what original ones were fetching on eBay. In fact, they're approaching the price of one of the new ones. Now, the new ones were always a lot cheaper than an original. So, at the moment, there's only a few bidders on these. And the question is, how good are they? This one has some rust in the front. The toe adjuster has got rust. More than likely, that is repairable and salvageable. Why it's got rust in that pattern is a bit interesting. It's like it's been sitting in a pool or something. But the gap doesn't look to be chipped in any way, which is one of the key things that you want to look out for with the Stanley number 62, is that because the toe is movable and it's used to dig into butcher blocks on the cross grain, so yeah, not the easiest to work, they often got chipped behind the blade. And these look to be pretty good. So this is a collector who knew what they were looking at, knew what they were looking for. To the point that they also have a 64. And the 64 is recognised as a plane that's not worth having. It didn't sell well. It didn't stay on the market for very long. It was very short-lived in the production cycle. You can see it looks like a little bit of a chip right there, but generally this one is in pretty good condition. And looking down the throat, there's a sign of that little chip. Now, it is only a small chip, but these were known to chip quite frequently and really hard to come by without a chip. So, taking that this collection is quite large, and according to the auctioneers, I haven't counted these, but according to the auctioneers, there's about 1,000 items in here, and they range from, cheap number 4s all the way up. And the collection is extremely varied. It has a wide range of planes, as you can see. So, what's your plan with your collection? Auctions like these are well worth watching because they will give you an idea if you were to try and sell your collection in one hit through an auction house. What sort of value would you get? So if you're interested, even if you're not in a place that you can easily purchase, finance, or even get access to or delivered from this auction house, I would suggest logging in and having a look at what is here, and possibly logging in on the day and just watching the auction. It'll be an interesting one to see what the values are in an environment like this, where it's a local auction plus online to try and capture, obviously, the world market. But a variety and number of planes like this in one place is going to stretch the wallet of any individual collector. So it's going to take a number of people or someone with very big financial pockets to be able to clean the floor with a collection of this size. There may be something here for everyone. I may buy something here myself. I don't know. At the moment, I'm not looking for anything new, and it doesn't necessarily have anything that I particularly have been looking for. But doesn't mean there's not things of interest. One way or another, it has certainly got me thinking of my collections, both in hand tools, woodworking tools, and video game console and games. What happens to them if something happens to me? How does my wife or family get the maximum value out of them, or savour my memory through them, through donations into a museum where they can go look at them, or know that something good has been done with them by supporting maybe a shipwright apprentice's career or something like that. Who knows? There are many options that we have for these tools when we're finished with them. Well worth thinking about, and I suggest you take a minute to think about it. While you are, log in and have a look at Abby's auctions, and in particular this auction. Whatever you do, whether you use or collect. Happy hunting.